Welcome to the Unhealthy Podcast, where we try to recognize, reset, and repair what's unhealthy in our lives. We discuss real-life habits around diet, exercise, relationships, and mindset. And the goal is simple: to notice what's not working, understand why it matters, and start fixing what's unhealthy, one small change at a time. And because our personal habits don't exist in a vacuum, each week we also look at what's happening in the world around us and how it might be impacting our health. So with that in mind, let's dive into some of the big stories from this past week. Americans are finally gaining back some years. A new federal report says U.S. life expectancy climbed to about 79 years in 2024, the highest on record and a clear rebound from the pandemic slide. Death rates fell nationwide, especially from accidental injuries like overdoses, which dropped more than 14%, the largest decline of any major cause. COVID, which was once the number 3 killer in the country, has now fallen out of the top 10 causes of death, a huge symbolic shift. Now, it's not all rosy. Suicide has entered the top 10, even though the rate actually edged down, reminding us that mental health is still a massive concern. But overall, this report signals that public health efforts, safer behaviors, and better treatments are slowly paying off. A massive evidence review just gave new weight to the old exercise as medicine line, especially for depression. Researchers looked at dozens of trials and found that regular physical activity reduced depressive symptoms about as much as formal psychological therapy. When they compared exercise to antidepressant medications, the benefits looked similar too, although the evidence there was less certain. The sweet spot wasn't hardcore workouts. It was light to moderate exercise, spread over 13 to 36 sessions. Think things like brisk walks, cycling, or simple resistance routines. Side effects were rare, mostly minor aches or injuries, compared with fatigue and stomach issues reported with the meds. This doesn't mean people should ditch therapy or prescriptions, but it does mean movement can be a surprisingly powerful and cheap part of a successful treatment plan. If you hate the gym, this one's for you. New research highlighted in Nature suggests you can cut your risk of heart disease and early death with tiny bursts of movement sprinkled throughout the day, sometimes called exercise snacks. We're talking climbing a few flights of stairs quickly, walking briskly to your car, or doing short active breaks between meetings. These mini sessions, when they add up, were linked to meaningful drops in cardiovascular risk, even in people who never set foot in a fitness center. The message is that consistent everyday motion might matter more than perfectly planned workouts. For busy adults juggling work, kids, and life, this reframes exercise from 60 minutes or bust to move whenever you can, as often as you can. A new study on daily life habits says your brain may get a double boost when you combine movement with time in nature. Researchers found that being in natural environments like parks, greenways, or even tree-lined streets encourages people to be more physically active. At the same time, being physically active makes people more likely to seek out and notice natural surroundings, which steps up a positive feedback loop. Exercising in places you perceive as natural seems to deliver special mental health benefits because your attention shifts towards outward things like birds, water, and wind instead of obsessing over effort, pain, or stress. For people fighting anxiety, burnout, or low mood, this suggests a simple habit change. Swap one indoor workout or doom-scrolling break each week for a walk or jog in the closest green space you can find. Pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest cancers, largely because it's usually found late. A new NIH-funded study may change that future. Scientists have identified a 4-marker blood panel that could help detect pancreatic cancer at earlier, more treatable stages. The test looks for a specific combination of molecules in the bloodstream that together seem to flag early disease more accurately than existing tools. This is still early research, so you won't see it on your annual physical labs yet, but it's a big step towards routine screening for a cancer that often kills within a year of diagnosis. If follow-up studies hold up, this kind of test could become part of targeted screening for high-risk people like those with strong family histories or certain generic conditions. If you've been telling yourself that drinking is moderate, a new study on alcohol and colon cancer may have you rethinking that story. Researchers reported that lifetime alcohol use is linked with a higher risk of colorectal cancer, one of the most common cancers in both men and women. The risk climbs with heavier and more prolonged drinking, but even moderate intake appears to nudge the odds in the wrong direction. Now, this doesn't mean one beer at a barbecue dooms you, but it does add to a growing body of evidence that no level of alcohol is truly good for health. For people with a family history of colon cancer or other risk factors, cutting back or taking alcohol-free months could be a smart long-term move. Ever notice how one person in the house gets slammed by a cold while someone else barely sniffles? New research points to what's happening right inside the nose. Scientists have found that nasal cells act as a frontline defense against rhinoviruses, the main culprits behind the common cold. In people whose cells mounted a fast and coordinated antiviral response, the virus was shut down early, leading to milder or even no symptoms. Others had a slower response, giving the virus more time to replicate and cause trouble. Factors like genetics, environment, and overall health probably shape how strong that nasal defense is. While we can't control our DNA, it strengthens the case for basic habits, sleep, nutrition, and maybe avoiding blasting cold air up your nose all winter to support your immune system's first line of defense. Thanks for listening to the Unhealthy Podcast. If you want to go deeper on anything we talked about today, hit the show notes or visit the website for links to the stories and resources. If this episode helped you, follow the show in your favorite podcast app and share it with one person who needs a little nudge towards a healthier life. Remember, you don't have to fix everything at once. Just recognize one thing, reset one habit, and start repairing from there. Until next time, live healthy and be happy.